So this is just a little update on the voice situation. I've been experiencing ongoing voice issues since September with voice loss in my upper register, and I shared earlier in the year that was a process kind of opening up a lot of questions and not sure how it had come about or how to resolve that, and as a result went through ear, nose and throat, and they've referred me on to speech and language, and as it stands now I have been given indications that what I'm dealing with is muscle tension dysphonia, which I kind of had suspicions about after I had received that initial clarification from ear, nose and throat that in fact there was nothing mechanically awry or no inflammation or anything to be concerned of in the department of damage to the vocal cords with like scar tissue or polyps, which was a relief. I had already started doing a bit of my own research just with symptomatic stuff and with my existing knowledge of the voice and the kind of psychosomatic things that were going on, and had kind of come to the conclusion that it was definitely a muscle tension issue. I have some pretty clear ideas about how that has manifest, and I can say with a pretty strong degree of certainty that is probably muscular tension and holding patterns that relate to trauma. And when we move into certain reflexes for kind of self-preservation and protection, that's a really primal instinct that we have, and we are, operating this amazing machine, this incredible organic system of structures with the skeletal system and muscle groups, and obviously all of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system being completely tied into that. And thinking about the voice as I do in a holistic sense, kind of integrating all of these different elements of the physiological, psychological, social, emotional and spiritual dimensions that all work harmoniously together when things are going well and we're able to vocalize and express in a natural way, in an easy way, with fluidity, with clarity, and the kind of aesthetic qualities that are possible through a more natural way of vocalizing. It's always going to be a pleasing sound regardless of your aesthetic values and whether you particularly like a certain style or genre or way of singing. Someone that is resonating to the fullest of their capacity using their instrument, which is totally unique. I think there's something undeniably there that connects the listener to that kind of sound, because there's a level of authenticity there that is just apparent. Like, wow, that's somebody that's singing using their voice. So I'm getting sidetracked here into why the voice is amazing, but yeah, so having that confirmation that it is a muscle tension issue is helpful. It confirms suspicions that I had already, and it creates a clearer pathway forward as to how speech and language can assist with that. And I've also been recommended laryngeal manual therapy, so basically massage, and I know this to be a super powerful and effective approach, because a friend of mine who does myofascial release, which I've kind of had my awareness opened to that world and the benefits of that as a form of therapy for all sorts of things, you know, physiological and emotional as well, issues that manifest in the body. After having had a little bit of trigger point work done along the neck and round about the tendons there, and feeling like a huge benefit and release from that, I can absolutely appreciate that having specific laryngeal massage which is targeted to kind of supporting all of the muscle groups here and working with like root tongue tension as well is something that's really going to help. So basically the next stage of the process is to try and get some funding secured for this, because despite the fact that I've gone through referral process, I've been told that this is now considered by the NHS like a pre-existing condition, therefore I wouldn't actually be entitled to have those sessions for speech and language therapy covered, which means I'm going to be approaching help musicians and any other organisations that may be able to offer some assistance with funding. And I'm hopeful about that, because I'm a professional voice user, and with the assistance of the British Association of Performing Arts Medicine as well, they've been really good writing cover letters to give a bit of context as to what's going on. So I'm hopeful that that will help me build a case to being able to access some funding which can pay for these sessions. So that's all good stuff, but by no means is this, you know, the end of this stage of the vocal journey. It's just beginning, really. I know from the existing work that I have been doing and the fact that I've had a break essentially from such intensity with the vocal training, and knowing now that there are different protocols and exercises to kind of working with the issues that I'm having, it's going to be an intensive period of working with and retraining muscle groups to move out of habitual patterns of tension and holding patterns. And that although that's a very practical methodology for, you know, working with the issues at hand, because I'm pretty certain that this stems from directly a trauma related issue, I know that that's going to bring up some stuff, because, you know, the body has a wisdom in its way of, you know, we lock into defense mechanisms and patterns to help protect us and psychologically make us feel that we're safe, and that kind of is often counteractive and not particularly helpful for the physical side of things. The mind is convinced, you know, I'm keeping myself safe, I'm preventing myself from being harmed again, which is a very kind of rational response and a very kind of reptilian brain kind of primal instinct, but it doesn't actually give us the adequate space to start working on addressing, like, how can we release these patterns, how can we prevent there being a build-up of toxicity in the body through, you know, holding on to unnecessary levels of like adrenaline, cortisol, all that stuff, which kind of keeps us in a really high alert, super hyper vigilant kind of stress response, which has other implications for, you know, the central nervous system and our overall health, relating to like, you know, immunity and just generally like how much energy and vitality we have. So yeah, the voice as the central point of a tool that we can work with directly to influence and change other elements and systems within the body is amazing and powerful, which is why it's such a fascinating subject area for me, and why I really believe that as a tool for supporting personal development and overall general health and well-being in, you know, across the board, it's something worthwhile that we should carve out more time and space to do. And despite having said that, when we are working with specific traumas in mind, and there can be a multiple pronged approach to how we address that stuff, usually the first stage is kind of more akin to like CBT or, you know, talk therapy, or, you know, actually vocalizing and expressing and releasing something in a tangible sense of saying like, this is something that happened to me, and having a recognition of that and perhaps an acknowledgement of that from someone else to help, you know, confirm like that's real, that happened. And then any number of possible route ways into healing or trying to address issues or symptomatic problems that are kind of coming up that are directly, you know, the body's defense mechanisms and responses to that event, which has kind of caused a disruption to our balance and our well-being. But the stage of coming to work with the body directly and targeting specific areas that are showing symptomatic strain, stress, because they are, you know, taking on an unnecessary load, or the burden of carrying like an imprint of something that's happened, or being in a holding pattern which has the potential to be re-triggered again and again, because of there being other factors at play which cause stress or cause disruption and kind of take us back into that that pattern, and we then keep repeating on a physiological level a sequence that relates to that trauma. So if any of you are aware of PTSD or similar issues that can manifest, post-traumatic stress disorder is definitely something that plays into these kind of patterns that emerge. So coming into working with the body to address this stuff in a more direct way, in a more head-on way, is definitely challenging. So it's a process, and taking it day by day, step by step, trying to remain optimistic and grounded, trying to document on an internal level, but also be as transparent as I can be in terms of sharing what feels comfortable as it's coming up, because I believe there is wisdom to share that may be useful, beneficial, helpful to someone else, and allowing that to influence how I can hold space for others and how I can assist others in exploring their own voices at whatever stage of the journey they are at. So yeah, looking forward to the new year and hoping to be less restricted and less bound by the voice issues that are kind of coming through. And there is hope in sight, because I have been getting gently back into the vocalization stuff and doing a little bit of recording again. I've needed to be doing that because there's been things happening in my life that are demanding emotional release, and vocalizing is the best way I find to be able to do that. And it's really frustrating when you can't express within the full spectrum of colour and tone and depth as you want to, but all it's doing is serving to remind me okay, we need to go back into this area, we need to go into this pain point, and there's some work there to be done, and that is life. It is the work, we must keep doing it, and onwards and upwards basically. So bring it on 2022. I'm ready. I'm ready for you, finally ready for you after the madness of what has been this year so far. So overall good news, but there's still a little way to go. Yeah.